evening, everybody, and welcome to a special edition of the Sports Exchange. And we are live with Novasoutheastern University men's basketball coach Jim Crutchfield. And Coach, thanks for being on the program tonight. We appreciate you.
Glad to be here, Scott. Thanks for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. So, all right, Coach, for the national audience, I want you to go ahead and talk about your past credentials and let everybody know about Coach Jim Crutchfield.
Well, I'm obviously a hillbilly from West Virginia. I've been in Florida here for 3 years. Spent 13 years at West Liberty University in West Virginia. Inherited a basketball program that hadn't had a lot of success there, and things went well. And we became nationally ranked, one of the best programs, obviously, in Division II in the country. And came to Florida and hope to doing the same thing here at Novasoutheastern University. And so far, we're off to a pretty good start.
Okay, now, Coach, you inherited a program that was 6-20 during the previous regime. So talk about the growth in terms of what you've accomplished since you came on board.
It's obviously been a group effort here. Myself, I have 2 assistant coaches that both played for me at West Liberty University. And my point guard from West Liberty transferred with me. And bringing a different style of play here to Nova, an aggressive style offensively and defensively, high scoring attack. For over the last 16 years, averaged about 100 points a game. I think that's probably the highest in the country at any level. But it's been a good transition here. Changing the style of play at Nova, and bringing in some players that probably kind of blend in well with that style of up-tempo, aggressive basketball. And first year here had a good year, a turnaround year, went 17-10. I think it was one of the top 5 turnarounds in the country 3 years ago. Last year had a banner year. Really surprised me. We ended up going 29-4, won the conference championship, won the regional championship, and made it to the Elite 8. This year we're off to a pretty good start. We're currently 18-2. I think we're ranked 5th in the country right now, and in a hunt for the conference championship with Florida Southern, who's right now I think a half a game ahead of us. We both have 2 losses, so we're in the thick of it right now. I like to say we've turned the program around, but it's been a couple years. Until I think you establish yourself winning for more than a few years. It's tough to say the entire program has been turned around. We've had a couple good seasons. We're hoping to make Novasoutheastern, a regular face in the national rankings, and so far that's going well.
Last night you had a convincing win over Lynn University. I believe the score was 104-71. I know that you implement a pressing up-tempo style. Talk about the pressing up-tempo style and your victory over Lynn University last night.
Well, it was a really good win. With the Lynn on their court, we lost the game on their court by I think 2 points, and they're very talented and they're well coached. And we were expecting a very, very difficult game last night, but we probably played our best game of the season, and we did. We kept the full court pressure on most of the game, and which is the norm for us. People expect it, and there's a reason why most people don't press. There's a danger in it. You expose the basket. You're open to giving up a lot of points, but we try not to do that. So last night we gave up 70-71, which for us is actually pretty good in the number of possessions that we have. But that style of basketball is, it's fan-friendly. People like watching an up-tempo game. I think players, for the most part, they like playing an up-tempo game. They'll at least think they do, so they learn how hard it is to play that way. But I just really feel like things are starting to change in the right direction here as far as the style of play. I guess the word people use today is culture. The culture has changed as far as the way we prepare for games, the way we play the game, and the way we enjoy playing the game. So, at this point in time, we're pretty happy.
Well, going into the 2020 season, when I saw this record, I was wondering if I needed a new set of glasses, but 405-75 with an 844 percentage is pretty impressive. Now, again, a number is a number, but you people are judged by their numbers, and your numbers are awfully good.
Well, my wife has advised me not to come here. I was at West Liberty and had established a record. Actually, I mean, it's the highest record in college basketball history. And she'd say, well, if you go to Nova Southeastern, you're not going to be the winningest coach in basketball history anymore. And so that's just a risk we're going to take, but we want to try to change something down here. The record almost amazes me. It's hard to describe. Every game seems to be tough. The fact that the program I've been involved with and has been able to win 85% of games is surprising to me. But right now, I'm just trying to enjoy it.
So what made you decide to come from West Virginia to South Florida? It's a tough nut to crack down here. I can't imagine that you enjoy the drivers down here compared to what you have up there. This is definitely a different breed of animal.
It is. Well, traffic is different here. I was driving a 2-lane road through the hills to work every day at West Liberty University. And, I do get that question a lot, especially from the people from West Virginia who would say, why did you leave West Liberty University and things were going so well? And the returning team I had was one of the best that I'd ever had. The answer is really about a chance to maybe do it again. West Liberty hadn't had a 20-win season in 50 years, and I was fortunate enough to get the job there. And we put 13 in a row together and became the winningest program in the country. And a lot of me was wondering, was that luck? Did everything just align perfectly? And I got lucky. And everything that I did at West Liberty, whether it was, we won regional championships, we played the national championship game, we won a lot of conference championships. Nothing was more enjoyable than just the changing of the program and making it different and making it more successful. And I thought I would like the opportunity before I retire to do that again, maybe a couple times. And Nova Southeastern came up and offered me a job, and I looked, and they had not had success at Nova Southeastern. And it's a good location, a good school. I thought if I'm ever going to try to do it again and try to change the complexion of a program into a winning program, this was an opportunity that if I pass this one up, I may not have it again. People think I came here for the weather, and that's all good because it's probably about 20 degrees and snowing back in West Virginia, and it's 80 here. But it was more about, as my wife says, I was just indulging myself. You're saying you want to see if you can do this again. I said, yeah, I do. And it's not a completed project yet, but we're on the right track here right now.
Well, Coach, since we're both Capricorns, okay, you were born on Christmas Eve and I was born 4 days after Christmas, and the fact that you went out there and spit that weather analogy, if I ever need my voice later in the night, you certainly were one of the individuals that's going to make sure that I kept it, since that thing called GMTA, you know what that means? Great minds think alike. Okay, so you can take that from me and you can use it any way you want. But yeah, I guess a lot of people will wonder about the weather factor, that, as you get a little bit older, you get tired of shoveling snow and driving on ice. And when you're in the hills, you probably get a little bit of that too. So come on, you can't tell me how many times a weather question hasn't come up from time to time, right?
Every day. Someone mentions it. Because I get a call from someone in West Virginia every day saying, what's it like down there? So I have to respond. Of course, it's beautiful here. It's been a change of lifestyle. Of course, I'm playing tennis outdoors 2 nights a week, and a little pickleball every now and then, and outdoor activities on a regular basis here, which in West Virginia, a little tough right now. But, there's goods and bads. You mentioned the traffic here. Traffic's a little different. One of the biggest changes I made was I had to buy a car that had those rear view windows that say, hey, there's a car in your blind spot, because in West Virginia on a 2-lane road there are no cars on your blind spot. Down here it's a little different driving on I-95 or 595. There's cars all around you, so I need to get a car and tell me, hey, there's a car around you. Don't change lanes down here. And by the way, people don't use blinkers down here either. I don't know if you noticed that or not.
So, yeah,
a little bit different driving situation in South Florida than Route 88 in West Liberty, West Virginia.
Well, let me tell you, I've been to West Virginia many times. I've been to Beckley, West Virginia, and I've driven through Charleston, and I know a lot about that area. And I think it's some of the most beautiful, best-kept secrets in the state. Everybody talks about the mountainous regions around the country, but West Virginia, in my opinion, is an absolutely gorgeous state. For those people that haven't been there and you're looking for a place to go hang out and do a lot of the activities like whitewater rafting, checking the hills, that's definitely one place. So few questions, and I know Lewis is chomping at the bit to ask you a couple. But tell me where the first question before I get to this next one is: have you ever thought about the possibility of ever coaching Division One instead of where you're at Division Two?
I've had a few opportunities, but not as many as people think. I get that a lot, thinking I've had numerous offers, but not from places that I thought that I would be, rather than the Division II schools I was at. I've been very fortunate to be at a school at West Liberty University for 13 years. Actually, I was there for, I think, 28 years. I was the tennis coach there for 15 years and the basketball coach there, around great people. And it was hard to leave there, and good teams. And here at Nova, I kind of feel the same way. But I've had, the few opportunities I've had, I didn't think they were the right situation. And I haven't had as many opportunities as people think. No one's knocking on my door here. So that would be asked to other schools. But, it's really, if you're enjoying where you're at and what you're doing, sometimes you need to kind of stay with it. And I've been a Division II coach for tennis and basketball now for over 30 years. I've enjoyed where I'm at, and opportunities are always good, but I would say the right opportunity was never there for me.
So tell me, Coach, where does your program stand right now? I know to me it's sitting pretty, and that'll lead me to my next question about Saturday, and then Lewis has a couple questions he's looking forward to asking. But where does your program stand right now, Coach?
We played our best game of the year against Lynn. We're 18-2, but we could easily be sitting here talking, and I could tell you, hey, we're 13-7 because we've won so many close games. That's obviously key in a successful season. We've had about 8 games determined in the last minute and a half of the game, and we've won on 6 of the 8. So, we're a good team, but in this league, anybody can beat you. And Florida Southern, who is definitely, I think they're one of the most talented teams in the country, it's going to be a tough matchup for us. I was at West Liberty when I felt like there was a lot of games going into. I thought we really can't lose this game, which is a good feeling sometimes as a coach. You don't want to have it all the time. I've never had that relaxed feeling down here in the Sunshine State Conference. I know every game, if we don't play really well, we're going to get beat. We're not overpowering as a team. Our things that we have to do, we have to play harder and be a little smarter and hopefully shoot the ball well for us to win against the great teams like Florida Southern. And that's, we played them up there, and that's kind of what happened. We shot the ball pretty well, and we managed to squeak by in an overtime game. I would be surprised if Florida Southern was able to blow us out here, and I would be surprised if we were able to take them out of the game too. So I think it's probably going to be one of those games that goes down to the wire. Okay,
so with you saying that, let's preview what's in store for Saturday. Why don't you go into more depth about the Florida Southern and Nova game, since you guys are 5 and they're number 6, a great top 10 matchup on Saturday at Rick Case Arena out in Davie, Florida.
We've got 2 teams that are both with 2 losses. They have a few more wins. They played an opening 2-game tournament, so I think they're probably 20-2 or 21-2. We're sitting at 18-2. 2 of the top 10 teams in the country. We right now in the South region. We are neck and neck. They're number 1. We're number 2 in the South region. In the Sunshine State Conference, they're number 1. We're number 2, right on their heels. So there's a lot at stake here. There's seeding. There's a conference championship. There's seeding for the conference tournament. There's seeding for the regional tournament if we get in the NCAA. So there's a lot of implications with this game, in addition to just being a big game. They're kind of similar in style and us, and that they run a lot of motion offense. I think one of the things that's probably different of this game than most Division I games you might see, both Coach Dolly and I think we coach a style where we teach guys how to play, and then they make more decisions on the floor than the average team, where it's easy for a coach, I think, sometimes to draw up a play. We can all draw up plays. We can all run an offense. But when you start letting players run motion offense where they're making the decisions, then it's a little tougher, and you tend to want to pull the reins back on them. But both these teams have pretty smart players, and they're very savvy teams. And the players are making a lot of decisions as opposed to being diagrammed, okay, this is where you screen, this is where you want to cut. They're making their own decisions. They're reading the game themselves and taking this current situation they're in and trying to make the best of it, both offensively and defensively. Our guys decide sometimes when they're going to trap on ball screens, when they're going to double team, when they're going to switch. So, and I think Florida Southern's kind of the same. So you've got two teams where the players are probably making more decisions than almost any game you're going to see in college basketball.
Yeah, I know Coach Bob Knight used to like to utilize that motion offense, didn't he?
Yes.
Yeah, I know that.
He did. And you got to teach your players how to play. You don't teach them to play, you teach them how to play, and then they got to kind of do the right thing on their own. So
are there any particular coaches through the years that you've tried to pattern yourself around, that you looked up to, that you've been able to take part of their style, or you just figure that Jim Crutchfield has his own way of doing things? So I know a lot of the great coaches try to utilize a lot of the philosophies of other ones over the years, whether you idolize them or whether or not you admire them or whatever the case may be. There has to be one or two coaches, if not more, that you probably compare. I don't want to say compare yourself to, but you know what I mean.
I'm probably a little different in that respect. I mean, there's obviously coaches that I admire. I was able to meet two young coaches this year that I admire. I'm not a big NBA fan, but I had the honor of sitting down with Coach Bolster from the Heat, called and would come up and we talked basketball, and sat down with the coach of the Boston Celtics, Brad Stevens, this year. And these are two of the finest young coaches, I think, in the game, and I admire both of them. And they both asked me that same question. They said, where did you draw? You have a unique style of playing, and a unique style of preparing. Who did you get this off of? And I don't really have a mentor. I've never really been that type of coach. I guess the biggest explanation I could give you, the best, would be I've seen some things. I see things that I like, and I draw from them. Some of them only last a couple seconds. A short story is something that kind of changed my philosophy a little bit. I remember when I was a young coach in my 20s, I was watching a game on TV, and the guy was Dale Brown at LSU.
Right.
And he was into a last-second situation, and the TV camera panned into the huddle, and he looked at his team, and it was on national TV, and he said, "Do you guys think this play would work?" And, I'm sitting there 24 years old, high school basketball coach, and my first thought was, wow, he didn't know what to run. He's asking his players, what should they run? And then I thought, wait a second, this guy is a very successful coach, and I'm sitting there on my Naugahyde couch in Cameron, West Virginia. Maybe he knows something I don't know.
Right.
And I started thinking about it and thought, he was probably marrying his team to the idea of the play. If the players say, yeah, we can make this play work, and they feel like they brought it to the table, they'll be more inclined to make it work. It's like taking ownership in something. And I changed. Up till then, I've been a little more of a dictator. I thought, I need to make my players really buy in to everything that I do, because make them feel like we're doing it together. It's almost their idea as much as it is mine. Whether that's true or not, I got to make them feel that way. And at that moment, that 10-second moment I watched on TV, it's changed my philosophy a little bit for the last 40 years. I do include my players. I do sit down with them and say, what do you guys think here? You tell me. And what do you think we should do today in practice? What can we do to get better today? Rather than me ram a practice schedule down your throat here, let's talk about what we can do today to help us beat Florida Southern on Saturday, and get their input. So whatever we do, then they're gonna be married to it. They're gonna try to do a better job at it. So it's just an example, I think, of how my philosophy has come about. Things I've seen, and that's just one of a handful of things I think that have kind of shaped me as the type of coach that I am today.
So does coaching present an enjoyment for you that you really love enjoying molding a young man's life to become that mentor figure? What do you get the most out of coaching?
I like competition. I've always enjoyed competition. Come from a family where the Crutchfield family reunions, my wife says it's like going to the Olympic Games. There's a winner and a loser in everything we do. And I've always enjoyed competing, and I think I like that about coaching too, the competition. But you develop relationships and relationship with players and other coaches, and that's an enjoyable thing too. It can be a stressful job too. Every game, pressure to win, pressure to succeed. Pressure you put on yourself makes the job rather stressful. So I try to sit back and enjoy the situation. I enjoy the players I have. We laugh every day. I enjoy my assistant coaches, Jordan Fee and Devin Hearn. We laugh every day. We want to have some fun all the time. But I really feel like, I enjoy the competition and I enjoy the friendship. I never try to put myself out there too much as a mentor. I know that as a coach, you're seen that way. I know you're an example, and you want to have a good sense of right and wrong because your players are looking at you, and you don't want to steer someone in the wrong direction. But I think it should happen naturally. Friendships and mentorship, those things, you don't force the issue. They just happen naturally.
And my final question, then I'll let Lewis ask a question or two. You got a lot of important basketball games ahead of you, Coach. Do you feel that if you don't win the Division II title, that it's a failure, or what do you expect to be a gratifying season? Because a lot of coaches say if we don't win it all, then the season came up way short and it's a failure.
Well, there's 315 teams in Division II. I'd hate to think that 314 will walk away with their head down thinking they failed. I don't feel that way. I want to win as many as I can. Every game. I remember even in the NBA, someone talks about I was kind of a Stockton and Malone fan. Like, well, they never won a championship, so they failed. I thought, well, they won so many games and did so many great things. I never looked at it that way. I want to win as many as I can. Obviously, you look at other things that determine success. But for me, it's really the style of play we put on the floor. If I walk away from the game feeling like we played really well and we played hard and we played the type of game that if you were just a regular fan, you came in and said, wow, those guys play together well, they play really hard, they play smart. There's a level of success for that. It's tough to realize that if you don't win a basketball game. But I really feel good when I feel like my team is playing as well as they can. That's rare, though. I'll be honest with you. I've been at this a long time. They told me the other day I've coached 500 games now. And I'm thinking there wasn't a ton of games where I really felt like we played at the best we could. Striving to get to that level where you feel like, wow, we're just playing about as good as we could possibly play as a team. That's what makes me happy. Trying to get there a little bit. If you ever do get there, I'd be ecstatic.
Okay. And obviously you're expecting a crowd of over 1,000 people on Saturday over at Rick Case Arena. Tip-off is 4 o'clock, right?
Correct.
And so you figure over 1,000 should be able to show up?
I figure that's probably about the case. You never know for sure, but I wouldn't be surprised. That's probably a good estimate of the crowd size.
All right, Lewis, go ahead. You got a question or two?
Yeah, so first of all, Coach, thank again for joining us tonight. First thing I really wanted to ask you, it's kind of like circling back to something we discussed at the outset of our interview, and that's this. From our conversation, you kind of strike me as a reclamation kind of man, or you like to, or maybe somebody like those guys that restore old cars and kind of make them look new again. And you did that at West Liberty. Obviously, your winning percentage there speaks for itself, as well as overall. And then you come down to Davie, to Nova, come to a program that was 6-20. The year before you took over, that was a 2016-17 season, I believe. When you got here, and you've really made that transition, what did you see from the program? What kind of ills were kind of plaguing them, and what did you guys do as a coaching staff to kind of like alleviate a lot of those problems and bring the program to where it is today, where it's at a degree of relevancy that we haven't seen in a while?
The one thing that I think that I have to have in my program are guys that are kind of basketball junkies. I've had a lot of coaches' sons in my program, guys that grew up with basketball, that gym rat type of guys. And when I came here, there were some nice guys on the team, some good players, but I wouldn't put them in that area as far as gym rats. And they weren't on the basketball court when they had free time. They weren't ever. I'm not sure they enjoyed the game. And the one thing down here, if you're really not enjoying basketball, there's other options. There's a beach. There's girls at the beach. There's spring breaks. There's a lot of things down here that can take you away from the game. And I brought in guys that enjoy the weather, that enjoy the beach, but they love basketball. And that was kind of a priority to get a few new faces. I recruited a few guys. I brought one with me, a couple assistant coaches that I felt were from the same cloth as I was as far as enjoying the game of basketball. And that became the first thing, is let's get guys that really love to play and love to compete, and we'll start with that. And we'll get as many good players in as we can. But I think that was the first thing that struck me here, was like, wow, these guys are nice guys, but I'm not sure, if the basketball was rolling across the floor and the court was there, they'd run out and grab it and start playing. That was probably the biggest change as far as the personnel when I got out here.
All right, and then my last question for you is really this. You said that you don't necessarily look up to anybody, though there are coaches in the past that you admire. Are there still people from your days at West Liberty, or maybe just people that you've come in contact with over, the many years that you've been coaching, that you still keep in contact with, maybe even go to for some advice from time to time?
Don't go to advice. I'm too old for that, I think, right now. Kind of too set in my ways how I do things. However, the biggest fan base for Nova Southeastern basketball is in West Virginia. If you were to track who's watching the broadcast, it's being watched in West Virginia. There's coverage in the newspapers there of what's going on at Nova Southeastern University. The last couple of games I've played at, there was 3 or 4 fans that were West Liberty fans that flew down here to watch Nova Southeastern play. There hasn't been a game this year on the road. Of course, Florida seems to be a destination for people in this time of season to come down here. But there has not been one game where I haven't had someone come up to me from West Virginia that I've known for the past and said, "Hey, Coach, we're down here. We're staying in Orlando. We're in Daytona. We're in Tampa. We wanted to catch your game. We love you when you're up at West Liberty, and we're following you." I get emails and texts constantly from people at West Liberty about, "Hey, we watched your game." Probably one of the funniest things, West Liberty is doing great right now. They're having a great season. They're also nationally ranked. They've continued on with their success. But I get some people call me saying at the games on Saturday afternoons when we're both playing, there are people in the stands with their cell phones, lots of them, looking back and forth saying, "Are you watching the Nova game too?" at the same time. So, yes, that relationship has existed. I ingrained myself there for so long that I've maintained friendships, and even guys that have supported me as a basketball coach in West Virginia are now following down here and have interest, and I think they're interested too. With the same thing I had, like, can you win down here? Can you go down to South Florida at a school in a really tough conference? Can you win basketball games at Nova Southeastern University? So they're kind of curious themselves. So they're interested. So a long-winded answer to your question: yes, still maintain a lot of relationships, and a lot of people up there are watching what's going on down here.
So is there any other thing you want to ask, Lewis? Wait.
Well, no. Last thing I'd say is this before we wrap it up, and that has to make you feel good. It has to give you a good sense of validation to know that your work there was appreciated to where you still have fans carrying over, what you're doing down here in Florida. So I think that's a sign of very good coaching, and you know exactly what you're doing, so nobody's going to question that.
And I have one other question that came to mind. I know Bob Huggins is the head coach over at West Virginia. Have you ever had any interaction with Bob Huggins, or what are your thoughts about him? He's certainly one of the most prominent. Yeah. What type of influence or advice or anything that has he ever given to you?
We're friends. Bob and I are friends. And the other thing that I'm working on Hugs is getting a game with him. He had the year that I left West Liberty, and he and I, we did a clinic together at West Virginia a few years back, just the two of us. And then we were going to play them in an exhibition game the year I came down here, so that didn't materialize. Then when I got here, he had said, this year we'll try to play you and bring you back to West Virginia and play the Mountaineers in an exhibition game this year. But they ended up canceling, putting Duquesne in for a fundraising. In Division I, there's a rule where you can play other Division Is and donate the money to a national catastrophe, like a hurricane victim type thing. But yeah, he and I are friends. I admire him. I like what I like. We're almost opposite ends of the spectrum when it comes to style. I like his style because he says what he wants to say. He says whatever he wants to. I kind of appreciate that about Hugs. If he wants to not be politically correct, he's just not politically correct, and that's probably what I like about him the most.
All right, well, just so you know, this is a Sports Exchange Special Edition. We're here with Nova Southeastern University coach Jim Crutchfield. Jim, all I can tell you is we want to thank you very much for being on the program. Just to let everybody know that you can read Louis Addy Weiss's game story at www.southfloridatribune.com. This broadcast is also going to be on iHeartRadio, Spreaker,
iTunes Podcasting Center as well,
Google
Spotify.
Podcasts, in addition to the fact that we have a lot of other things. So just so you know, folks, go out there and support Nova Southeastern University. We have the number 5 team in the country, the Nova Southeastern University Sharks, against Florida Southern, the number 6 team in the country. So, Coach, it's been a pleasure having you on the program, and we look forward to spending some more time with you over at the Rick Case Arena out in Davie, Florida. Coach, anything else you want to add while we wrap up the broadcast?
No, I just appreciate talking to you guys, Scott. Lewis, appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Coach. Look forward to seeing you Saturday. Good night.
Okay, take care now.
You bet.
All right, take care.
Bye-bye.
You there? Well, no. Yeah, hit stop. Candy, come here.
Candy.
That turned out really good.
Yeah, you stole some of my questions I was going to ask. I had one written down, but I don't care. That was
Listen, you sounded good.
Candy. Okay.
All right, do I hit stop broadcasting then?